The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals participating in the show. All persons described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions along with adult language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
On October 19th, 2019, a man goes bow hunting in the Medicine Bow National Forest in Wyoming. He turns up missing. Later, the bones are found. What happened to this man? You're listening to the Mysterious Bruce podcast, and tonight we're going to be the case of Mark Strittmater.
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, moist basement somewhere in the bowels of Georgia. Well, Coachum, I believe the old pickle story has lit the fires and kicked the tires. We've had a little traction.
I'm impressed by that because I have a 5-star review by a person that joined Patreon specifically to hear the pickle story.
Yes, we have had a couple of those. We had, I think, 2 that I know of.
It's worth knowing. It's worth joining up for at least a month to know the pickle story.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think we had. She may have. What is today? Yeah, so she would have joined right before. So, all right. So here's the deal.
Today is Tuesday, November 5th, Election Day.
Yeah. So on the 24th of October, we had Miss Lauren Holmes join. So she would have been in before we even hinted about the pickle, I think. And then after the pickle drops, we've got Miss Kristen McBee, Miss Laura Quadra, and the artist known as Mar. Now, Miss Quadra, everybody, all right, so Mar, the artist known as Mar, is a $1 shout out tier. McBee and Holmes, sticker tier. And Quadra is like, I'm going full chalant, $10 beer tier. But anyway, we did get some. Where's it at? We had a lot of Patreon, I guess, comments about the old pickle story. And the only thing I said when I dropped it was, I titled it, The Pickle Story, You Have Been Warned.
You definitely need to be warned. That's 100% sure.
So we had OG Miss Bliss stated, I could sit and listen to you guys talk about poop all day. And then Miss Winford calls me out because I didn't even say deuces at the end. I was like, y'all get what you get.
I told you when we went off the air, I was like, why did you not say deuces? Did I not? You were like, see, check you later, you fucking moron.
I didn't. I don't remember any such things happening. I believe you're an idiot.
No, I was like, why in God's green earth did you not say deuces?
Then,
like, I don't know, maybe it's Patreon, blah, blah, blah.
Another OG, Peace Cat, said, holy shit, I'm so happy we're friends. Mr. Winford comes in and says, well, that was a shit show. And then Miss Winford comes.
No pun intended.
No, not from him. No, not the nature boy, Chad Winford. Then his wife, Miss Winford, comes in and says, you gonna eat that pickle.
I will not eat that damn pickle. I promise you that much.
What was the other one? Yeah. Okay. I think we're good there. I'm sure the post office has shit the bed on some stickers being sent out. So again, any of y'all that I called out as new patrons, if you have not
gotten your decals, let us know. I think we're good there. So to the 5-star, sir, to the good 5-star.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking to me?
5-star. Hello.
Oh, yes. I have a very good 5-star, which is you can definitely tell when people have listened to us for a long time because they absolutely know our MO. And that is no joke with this one. It says, Holy Rocky Top, 5 stars. Y'all, listen. I have been listening to this podcast for years. Years, I say. Every Tuesday, I wait with bated breath to hear that Southern dialect that is this. Sorry. I wait with bated breath to hear that second. Good God.
It's those S's. It's those S's.
I can't read. That's the problem. I'm going to start over. 3, 2, 1. Y'all, listen. I have been listening to this podcast for years. Years, I say. Every Tuesday, I wait with bated breath to hear that Southern dialect that is second to none. I know it well as a Knoxville native that is just so happens to bleed orange and white for my alma mater. Coach, GBO, which means Go Big Orange. And thank you for your legendary intros, especially on the Helen Brock episode. Arlo, good sir, I just want you to know that I wholeheartedly appreciate the time and effort that you put into your research for each episode because one of y'all has to do it, and it ain't going to be the one whose name whose name rhymes with poach. Y'all are my people. Today, I signed, sealed, and delivered my loyalty to Mysterious Brews by leaving a 5-star review, actually leaving a comment for the first time ever on Spotify, and joining the sticker tier level on Patreon. With an annual commitment, that's amazing, because I need to know what's up with the story involving pickles. Deuces, boys. That man is right on the money.
Well, I think it might be.
No. I mean, Go Big Orange. GBO stands for Go Big Orange. He's a smart man.
Oh yeah.
That is.
I just want to give.
No. That is the Mick B, and his 5-star review is titled "Holy Rocky Top."
What in the hell is going on here? What in the Sam Hill hell is going on here? I can't find nothing. Hold on, I done fucked up my eye holes.
Oh my God! Don't interrupt my 5-star reviews, bro. I got very little to do with this podcast anymore, and you're interrupting.
All right, so I'm not saying the 5 stars were a bad idea. I'm just saying maybe this time we forego you stuttering through another one, and we go full regalia next week.
I didn't stutter. I just can't read that good.
Criticize.
That's all you do, man. Honestly.
As for me and mine, don't ask us for nothing.
You just hating because we're getting some Go Big Orange hate. Good Go Big Orange love, rather. We ain't got no fucking Georgia love.
That's because
you know why? Because they suck.
Okay.
In 2 weeks from now, we gonna know.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's make a bet right here on the podcast.
I ain't betting shit on college football. As fucked up as this year has been.
No. Let's bet on Georgia, Tennessee right now.
What's the bet?
The next time, if Georgia wins, I will do this podcast naked.
No.
If Tennessee wins,
hell no.
You will do this podcast naked.
Hell no on both of them.
And we will post it on the YouTube.
Just boobs everywhere.
If Tennessee loses, there's going to be some fucking titties on the fucking screen.
How about this? We forego the nudity.
Everybody loves nudity.
You're going to have to be more specific about everybody. And the winner of said match gets their fight song played in the opening.
On the podcast?
Yeah, in the opening.
Oh, deal. I'll accept that.
Good. I just saved everybody.
and the other one has to say the other team is the best team in the history of the world.
Oh, my God. And we're just
Blah,
going
blah,
overboard.
blah, blah, blah.
We're going overboard now.
You're just going to have to say, I think you should sing Rocky Top.
No. Hell no. There's
The
a
entire
line in the
song,
sand.
from start to finish.
No, there's a
Rocky.
line in the sand. And I am not crossing that. Okay,
Here's
so
the thing. Let me tell you that. Let me just say this. If you ask the average college football fan if they know the words to Georgia's fight song, or if you know the words to Tennessee's fight song, which one you think is going to be more popular?
well, I would probably say Urines is. All right, so hold on. I know I'm shifting.
Don't skip over that.
I'm saying yours.
Skip over that.
That's because it was one of them our bluegrass songs. But anyway, all right, stop. Listen. Does anybody else get these emails from LinkedIn saying, do you know this person? And then if you look at it, that person is not sending a request to you because it says you should request to connect with people you know. They done trying to tricking me. Who is that moron? Okay, so all right, that's my pea brain. So
No, don't think everybody knows you didn't change the subject. You're very good about that.
I am. I am.
All right, let's get this fucker started.
Sorry, kick the tires and light the fires. Here we go, boys and girls.
We've got several people apparently that don't like our banter in the beginning.
Well, they're going to be pissed off because that's 13 full minutes of it. All right, so
Jesus Christ, that's a lot.
it is a lot. So the disappearance of one Mark Strittmater. Mr. Strittmater was 44 years old in October of 2019 and a resident of...
Stop. What's crazy is when you try to research that, which I did, all you find out is about a professional baseball player by the same name. How unique is that name?
You would think it was extremely unique, but you're right. As soon as you
extremely unique, you name. That is an extremely unique name, but yet there's a professional baseball player and a man who disappeared mysteriously. I don't know if that's, the universe trying to tell us something, or I don't know, man. It just seems pretty crazy to me.
Serendipitous. So, he was a resident of Saratoga, Wyoming, and an experienced hunter. Mark lived with his girlfriend of 13 years. And I believe if you have watched the Missing 411 UFO... What is it? Hold on, I got it written down here at the bottom. UFO Connection. If you've watched that one, that's the last or the latest Missing 411 documentary, show, movie, whatever you want to call it. I believe they mispronounced or misspelled his girlfriend's name. I believe her name, the actual name is Kimberly Mace. And they, like I said, had been together for 13 years. They were hunting buddies, so they often hunted with each other. Mark was a welder out of Gillette, Wyoming, and worked specifically a pipe welder, and was returning home to Saratoga about 1 o'clock in the morning on October 19th of 2019. He gets home. He is set to go hunting in the Medicine Bow National Forest that same day. Now, this was an area that he was very familiar with and had hunted extensively for the last 30 years. Kimberly would later state that she saw Mark around 5:30 a.m. the day he left for his hunt. So if you're counting at home, that's 4.5 hours from the time he gets home until he's headed out. Now, Mark was driving a rented 2016 white Dodge pickup truck. As he traveled into Medicine Bow National Forest, he was wearing a light camo shirt, which would lead me to believe it was cotton or very thin long sleeves / maybe a short sleeve shirt. In October, I'm thinking probably a long sleeve, thin shirt. Gray pants and a bright orange hat. Mark was last seen at a come-and-go convenience store just before the entry to the forest at 5:46 a.m. Now, the Medicine Bow National Forest consists of over 2 million acres of land, which covers territory in both Wyoming and Colorado. It's basically, the great federal government and all its wisdom combined 2 forests and a grassland to make the current Medicine Bow National Forest. They combined the old Medicine Bow, the Route National Forest, and the Thunder Basin National Grassland into that one gigantic 2 million acre swath of territory. Now, these were all combined in 1995. So Mark's plan for the day was to hunt in the section to the southwest of Saratoga. Now, it is not clear how long he was intending to hunt or whether or not he was aware of the weather. I will say this before we go any further. As a hunter, if you have a cell phone that has cell phone service, you are constantly checking that weather app because, A, you need to know if he's hunting elk, he needs to know the proverbial or the prevailing wind that day so that he can approach from downwind. Anybody else is also looking to see how long they can stay out there. And in Wyoming, where you're getting storms cranking up before they hit the Great Rocky Mountains, you would consider him being almost religious looking at the weather. But again, we don't know for certain whether or not he even looked at the forecast. I'm betting he did. Now, when he first left his truck, he was carrying only his rifle and a backpack containing smaller items and perhaps some food and water. Again, that's not known either. Any heavier clothing that he had was left in the truck. And around 11 a.m., he attempted to call his girlfriend, Kimberly, but she didn't answer. He would later text her saying that he had shot an elk, but believed he missed. The exact words of the text were, quote, "I'm done. I suck. Missed a nice 5-pointer, possibly a small 6. Then a small 5-pointer ran in a perfect broadside shot, even closer, but walked down to find nothing." End quote. Now, Kimberly received the text while she was in Rawlins, Wyoming, watching her grandchild for the day.
No, you may have said it before, and it may have been in my research, but correct me if I'm wrong. He's a bow hunter, right?
Well, he is a bow hunter, but he had taken his rifle this day.
Okay.
This is very Aaron Hedges-like.
But isn't there, I'm going to reveal how unmanly I am right now. Do the bow hunting and rifle hunting intercede?
Well, I don't know about Wyoming. Here in the great state of Georgia, you can bow hunt the entire season. It starts extremely early in Georgia, like September 1st or around Labor Day, and it runs all the way to the end of deer season, which is now the middle of January. Somewhere along that line, usually towards the middle to the end of October, enters primitive weapons, which is black powder, and then rifle season here in Georgia.
For what it's worth, I respect good Lord, bow hunters way more than rifle hunters, and then in the middle of that would definitely be black powder hunters.
Yeah, because you got to get them. You got to close the
hunter, man. That son of a bitch got to get real close.
Yeah, he does.
Real close.
You better be one with nature,
and you got to be good.
Yeah, especially if you're hunting elk.
Well, if a rifle will blow the fucking back end off a deer if you need it to.
Yeah. What's that old boy's name? Clint Smith. Handguns with the right load will put a hole in people. Rifles with the right load will put a hole through people. A shotgun with the right load will take a chunk out of someone, put it on the wall in the other room.
I mean, I didn't mean to reveal the fact that I'm really not a man.
He's not a manly man.
I've hunted once in my life. We went duck hunting, and we left at like 5 a.m., and all I remember was we drank about between 6 people, we drank about 95 beers. And about 7:30 in the morning, I threw up in the shower and went to sleep and woke up at 7:30 p.m. thinking it was 7:30 a.m. And you want to talk about a mind fuck? Good God!
Yep, that would definitely do it.
When you think it's the morning and it's the evening,
oh yeah,
woo,
those
your brain,
those are the worst.
Your brain checks out pretty much.
You're like, what kind of spiritual warfare is going on here?
Like, what the hell is all this?
Yeah, is that a plastic bottle?
What? No, he's fucking with an elk bone because he's an asshole. He doesn't. I love this little bastard to the ends of the earth, but he doesn't make noise until we log on.
Imagine that.
And he wants to make every bit of noise he possibly can. But he's a good boy, aren't you?
Okay, so
you're a good boy. No,
look at that face. Look at that face. Look at that face. All right, a sure snowstorm would roll into the area where Mark was hunting during the time of this text going down. And when I say sirs, I mean sirs. It dropped between 4 to 6 inches of fresh snow in the area. Now, Kimberly indicated that Mark was aware of the impending snowstorm and assumed he would try to make it out of the area before it hit. Now, later in the evening, she would text Mark asking if he had made it back to Saratoga. She did not receive a response. And the message indicated it wasn't delivered. So that leads you to believe that either he was out of the service area where he could receive text, or his phone had powered off. Now, when she tried to call Mark, the phone would go straight to voicemail, again indicative of either being out of the service area or it being turned off. Kimberly would not return home until Sunday, October the 20th, when she arrived, she realizes Mark's not home and has not come back yet. She initially went to the Saratoga Police Department to see if any accidents had been reported. Now, the Carbon County Sheriff's Office was notified around 3:44 p.m. after a deputy went to meet with Kimberly at the Saratoga Police Department. She would tell that sheriff's deputy that she was going to head out to the area to look for Mark since she had not heard from him since the snowstorm had hit, but at that time she did not want to go ahead and report him missing or have them launch a search and rescue operation. Now, a lot of people have thrown shade at her for this, but he is an experienced hunter. And if for some reason he didn't know the snowstorm was coming and he just had to hunker down in his car, she's probably thinking, I don't want to make a big to-do out of nothing. So after all that goes down, she travels up to the Deep Jack Road area where she knew he often went hunting. There she would find his truck, or the rented truck, at the intersection of Forest Road 801 and Forest Road 830. She would later tell authorities that Mark never usually went that far down the road because he always said the further you go, the more people there were. So the truck, when she found it, was completely covered by a significant amount of snow. The snow around the truck was untouched, indicating that nobody had been around it since the snow fell. So Kimberly opened the truck and found inside his cell phone, Mark's cell phone, his wallet, spotting scope, cooler, and cigarettes. She found his keys in the truck's fuel door, which was his normal place for hiding them. The other things that were missing were his rifle, his hunting pack, and, of course, Mark. Now, the fact that Mark's cell phone was found in the vehicle indicated to her that he had returned to the truck at some point before the snowstorm hit to put the phone inside and then went back out again for some reason. Kimberly checked the fuel level on the truck and also started it, so there was no indication that there was anything mechanically wrong with the vehicle, and there was no indication of where Mark may have gone to. Kimberly then returned the keys to where she found them and left the truck for authorities. She would officially call and report Mark as a missing person at 7:42 p.m. So Carbon County Sheriff's Department deputies arrive to the area around 9:15 p.m., and the only tracks that they were able to locate were just Kimberly's. Now, they confirmed in their reports that they found Mark's keys and cell phone in his truck. They also found a receipt from the Come and Go that Mark stopped at that morning that he disappeared. This receipt led deputies to the security footage of that convenience store, and it does show Mark coming in. Deputies also spoke with any campers they could find in the area, but no one they talked to had reported seeing Mark or anyone near the area where his truck was parked. Kimberly was called by a Carbon County Sheriff's deputy that evening, where she gave some detailed information on Mark and his hunting practices. Kimberly said she was concerned because Mark left his heavier winter clothing back at the house. She also said that Mark usually takes snacks and water with him, but she was not sure if he was prepared for the severe snowstorm that had blew in so quickly. Kimberly did not believe that Mark was in a bad mental state at the time and didn't think he was taking any medications. Hold on to that, because that's going to come back up. So sheriff deputies called in searchers who were equipped with four-wheelers and off-road vehicles, and almost immediately they start encountering problems, and that is due to the weather in the area. The snow had wreaked havoc on the roads, and it was so bad that it actually delayed some of the searchers from getting to the site. And that's a big deal up there. It's not like down here in Georgia where we'll call off school in case there's one flake falling. This is a big snowstorm if your search and rescue personnel can't reach the site.
Yeah, they're very much better equipped to handle that than we are.
Muy better.
We shut down the entire state for a couple inches of ice.
Oh shit! I ain't messing around no ice now. Y'all can laugh at us dumbasses down here in the South all you want to, but fuck messing with some ice. I don't like that shit one bit.
Wasn't that 2011 when like they shut down the whole state, including the interstate? People were stuck on the interstate for like 3 or 4 days because of the ice.
Yeah,
it was bad. I'm not gonna lie, it was bad.
It was pretty shitty,
but we were not ready.
No, not one bit.
Just put it that way. We were not ready.
So other resources that were used or were going to be used were your air support, and they were grounded because visibility was so poor. They would eventually start performing air searches, but that had to be in an intermittent fashion because there was snowstorms rolling in and out. Now, the search did not turn up anything of value and basically was called off 6 days later. So on October 26, 2019, they ceased the search and rescue. Several details would emerge during that initial week of searching for Mark. So on October 21st, a deputy met with Damon and Gary Taylor. Now, Gary Taylor is Kimberly's brother, and Damon is his son / Kimberly's nephew. Apparently, these two individuals had taken some of Mark's personal items from his truck. When authorities found out about this, the dynamic duo was forced to give them items back. So they returned the items in a soft-sided cooler from Mark's truck, the same cooler he had packed to go hunting. Inside said cooler was his wallet, some medication, some food, drinks, his spotting scope, and his phone. The food and drinks in the
wallet was in the cooler?
Yeah, because these geniuses went in there and basically, we'll get to it in a minute, but basically started taking stuff they thought was valuable. But anyway, so the food...
It's still in this cooler, though. That's so weird.
Well, they put it in there. He didn't put it in there.
I got you.
Yeah, they used the cooler as kind of like a big old bag to put shit in.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
And it's one of those soft-sided... There's a picture of it somewhere. I'll have to send it to you. It's, I think it's a Walmart special camo hunting cooler, soft-sided. But anyway, so the food and drinks in the cooler consisted of 2 bottles of water, a bottle of Powerade, and a Lunchable container. Coach's favorite, Lunchables.
Dude, no, don't be knocking Lunchables, bro. Back in the day, like 5th grade, 6th grade, you get Lunchables They came with 2 meats, 2 cheese, a little mint, and some hot mustard if you wanted it. Those Lunchables were the shit.
Then they got damn goofballed and gave you some slimy ham, some Ritz crackers, and if you was lucky, some government cheese.
Yeah, I had my fair share of the Lunchables pizzas, but nothing will compare to the original Lunchables.
No, I agree.
I would eat those Lunchables today.
Yeah, I agree.
To this day.
They probably cost you $25, but I'd eat them too.
To this day.
So we don't know what type of food or how many bottles of water, if any, Mark took with him when he left his truck to go hunting. Now, there is a strong possibility that he didn't take any. Now, the prescription medication that was in the truck is also listed on the official police report as being returned by the dynamic duo. Authorities would later note in the report that they found 2 empty prescription bottles, one for diazepam and one for hydroxyzine. Also found was a bottle of alprazolam, aka Xanax, which was about 3/4 full. Another bottle of hydroxyzine, about 3/4 full. And then I've never seen this or heard of it, so leave it up to our wonderful listeners. I don't want to Google. I'm on enough watch lists. But anyway, this was said 11 pouches of buprenorphine, Nalox, 8 films, commonly known as Suboxone. Now,
sure, you don't know what Suboxone is.
I know what Suboxone is. I ain't ever heard of that other stuff. Now,
sure, buddy, sure.
Before we go any further, the diazepam is Valium. Not giving any medical advice, but if you put all that shit into a Google search, like if you just list them with a comma in between them and hit search,
you'll end up on a government watch list.
You will, but one of the first results is that is basically a common stack script for anyone suffering from opioid addiction and withdrawals. Oh, we got a squeaker. Now, upon further investigation...
Never messes with the toys until we record, I swear.
Upon further investigation, deputies would learn that there was a gun removed from the truck by the dynamic duo, and it was not returned when the other items were returned. So on October 22nd, detectives interviewed Mark's father, Mark Strittmater, and now Mike believed wholeheartedly his son had not just gotten lost, wandered off, none of that. His main reason for this was that Mark used to be a guide, hunting guide, and he was a survivalist. Mike also told authorities that his son unfortunately did have a history of drug use, but he was in the process of seeing a doctor for his addiction and was on the road to recovery. He told authorities that Mark was taking prescription medication to, quote, stave off withdrawal symptoms. Now, it would appear that either Kimberly was unaware of this fact or she was unwilling to reveal this to authorities. Now, Mike described his son's relationship with Kimberly as a fairly normal long-term relationship. Basically, if you're dating somebody for 13 years, I got a feeling you gonna know if they're addicted to damn near anything or if they're trying to kick a habit. Just saying. Now, on November 6th, Mark's half-sister, Jenny Barr, would call the sheriff's office and stated that she had received some texts from Mark before his hunting trip on October 13th. Remember, he went hunting on October 19th/20th, and she's saying these texts came in roughly 5-6 days before. Now, this would be indicative of just some brother-sister back and forth, but in the middle of it, the text indicated that he had gotten into a confrontation with a couple of hunters that he stated stole a deer he had shot. Now, apparently, guns were pulled and Mark shot around into the air, which caused the other men to run off.
Over a deer?
Yeah.
over a deer.
Well, out there, they're a little bit bigger than the ones around here. And
well, that's true, but still, I mean, a deer?
A lot of people will use that instead of going to the grocery store, which I don't blame them. But anyway,
it is good meat.
It is good meat. Now, so detectives go back and they're like, "Hey, Kimberly, we have some questions." So they asked her about it and asked her if she knew about it. And she was like, "Yeah, I was with him when it went down." She said that Mark shot a deer and they both went to see if it was hit and if it had run off. When they crest the hill, they see two men in a red Chevy truck about to pull off. So they stop them and ask if they had seen a deer. Look in the back. There's the deer in the truck bed. Mark and the hunters exchanged words and the guys drove off. Detectives would ask Kimberly if any guns were pulled, and she said absolutely not. There was just a whole lot of cussing going on between the two parties. Now, additional searches, I guess that would be an easier way to put it, an additional search took place on November the 8th, just 2 days after the sister reported this text thing by the sheriff's department. Now, the sheriff himself would bring in at least 4 dog teams to the area, but again, they wouldn't come up empty-handed. Detectives contacted Kimberly again on November the 13th, roughly a week later, to, quote, re-interview her. Now, this is not, I guess, badgering or pest. I don't know what the hell you would call it. Basically, they're trying to make sure that they can just rule her out as a suspect. And they bring her in, ask her the same questions. Nothing she said in this one contradicted anything she had said previously. And as a good faith, token, she gives them pictures of his rifle as well as pictures of his tattoos. So about 8 months later, on July 13th of 2020, authorities contacted Kimberly yet again to see if there was anything else that she could add to the case. Basically, it had gone cold. Had she had any contact? Had she seen anything? Had something jogged her memory? And I'll have to give it to the sheriff's department. They're doing a great job. Now, they were a little bit of a peckerhead to a YouTube guy when he asked for a report and charged him an exorbitant amount for the report. But all in all...
Yeah, but at the same time, we have to respect the fact that they're doing their due diligence.
Well, that, and they're in small town Wyoming. There's, I mean,
some random ass fucking YouTube guy starts asking questions. Why would they ever appeal to him?
Well, and it wasn't
why would they bow down to him?
I agree, and it wasn't a Freedom of Information Act. I think he was,
especially to them, he may have $4,000 followers, but to them, who gives a shit?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying, in those small little towns, the sheriff's department's running on a shoestring budget. I'm not saying that it, overcharging for a report is on the up and up. I'm just saying, hey, you asked for something that wasn't covered under the Freedom of Information Act. You better expect to pay for it.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, I don't blame them for that at all.
No, I don't either. Now, Kimberly would say, hey, I didn't think about it at the time because I was just worried about him being out in the elements and where was he at, blah, blah, blah. But this time she did say that Mark may have had either cancer or some kind of mass that was south of his Mason-Dixon line. Boy, down there in his nether region.
I don't want to think about that.
I don't either, but she was very uncertain of the exact diagnosis and could not produce any medical records to verify this. She stated that she eventually stopped trying to talk to Mark about it because when she brought it up, he would get really upset. Now, Kimberly then told detectives if they wanted any other or any more information, they should contact some individual whom Mark had been spending a lot of time with in Gillette. But they don't go into any indication of who this is. I don't think it was another another woman. I'm thinking this may have been who he roomed with when he was working on the pipeline as a welder. But again, a name is not provided. I say that, and you probably can dive deep on Reddit and find it. If so, kudos to you. Now, on July 22nd of 2020, a deputy interviewed Kimberly's brother, Gary Taylor. Now, remember, that is one half of the dynamic duo that pilfered his vehicle and put all his shit in a cooler. They asked him about his involvement with the search and rescue operation, which seems a little odd. Gary said that he attempted to help in the search for Mark and said that a lot of people were there when he showed up and he didn't know any of them. He would have tried to help search, but the snow was so deep that he wasn't able to get very far without getting very tired. Since he couldn't search, he decided to go and check on Mark's truck. This is when he and his son removed all the stuff that we previously talked about. His reasoning for taking all of this stuff was, quote, to keep them safe, end quote. Sir, you have on the surface opioid withdrawal medication that you are taking from your quasi-brother-in-law. You taking them just to, quote, keep them safe, I'm not buying it. But they did ask old Gary if he remembered anything else from the day. He said he recalled seeing a man talking to some deputies. This man said that he had seen Mark in the area and he believed Mark was intoxicated and wandering around. So Gary decides, and the old man had decided to leave Mark alone. Gary decides he's not going to go over there, but he believed the man telling the deputies this story was actually drunk himself. When asked about his relationship with Mark, Gary said that they used to hang out a lot, but not so much anymore in the months leading up to his disappearance. He would elaborate by saying that about a year prior to him disappearing, Mark had become a lot meaner. Gary didn't think he was treating his sister Kimberly and others very well, so their friendship fell by the wayside. Gary was then asked if he knew anything about Mark's current health situation, and he stated that that Mark had a prescription drug problem, but he didn't know what drugs Mark was abusing. Again, the hell you don't. You just returned 2 empty prescription bottles and 3 partially filled ones. I'm not buying what old Gary is laying down, to be honest with you. So now we get to October 23rd of 2020, and a hunter was walking near the area where Mark's vehicle was found and discovers a pair of binoculars lying on the ground. Said binoculars actually turned out to be Mark's binoculars, and they were found about 2,000 feet or just under a half a mile from where his truck was located. Now, the sheriff, again, would bring in some canine search teams. This time, they were able to locate some smaller items that possibly belonged to Mark. The specific items that were found have not been released by authorities, however. So, fast forward to August 29th of 2021, approximately a year later from finding the binoculars, and the sheriff's department, again, doing their due diligence, has a 12-man search and rescue team out in the area for a day or two where Mark had disappeared from, looking around again. They find the remains of a shirt, but it wasn't certain whether it belonged to Mark or not. Now, on August 31st of 2021, detectives received information that there were 2 hikers that encountered Mark on the day he went missing. They interviewed a man named Jacob Anderson and asked him about the interaction with Mark on the day that Mark disappeared. Jacob said he was with another man named Cameron, and they were walking in the area scouting for animals. Jacob said they were not having any luck and were heading back to their camp when they got to the roadway. That's where they encountered Mark driving his white pickup truck. Mark stopped beside them and asked them if they needed a ride. Jacob felt that Mark was under the influence of something because he was acting a little off, so he tells Mark they didn't need a ride, that they were just up the road. Mark drives away. Jacob and Cameron walked back to their camp approximately a mile away, and later that evening, Jacob was out and they were driving around the area. They see Mark's white truck parked where it would eventually be found by authorities. While they were driving around the area, that's when the snow started to fall, and it continued to get worse as the evening went on. All right, so there's a bunch to unpack here. First, how in the hell is it almost 2 years later that they come forward or they find out about it? Second, allegedly, and I kind of answered my own question, but allegedly, when search and rescue get up there that evening and the snow's falling, they go and try to find people that are camped in the area.
Is there a reason like they may have been scared to come forward?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's the other thing. Did Mark give off this vibe that he wasn't one to be fucked with, or he was looking to do some, I don't know. There's a bunch.
Maybe. I mean, honestly, to God, I mean, if you waiting, what did you say, 2 years?
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, honestly, that's the only reason I would think that they would not come forward is because they were scared.
Well, the other thing is, if they're driving around at night, there's only a couple of things you do when you drive around at night in a hunting area.
Yeah, it's probably spotlighting.
And or drinking some road sodas.
Well, yeah, but that goes hand in hand. If you're I don't know of a single person in my life that I know that went spotlighting that was sober.
That's true. That is a true statement.
When I was in college, my roommate, we drove home drunk from the bar. He was driving, and we took the super secret back road, which was like the main road until you turned off on a dirt road. And once we turned off on the dirt road, he saw it. He was like, we're going to look for a deer. And he saw one, and literally he stuck the pistol across my chest to take a shot at this deer that he was spotlighting. And I was like, bro, I think I need to go home.
Maybe I should drive.
I don't think I need to be a part of this anymore. Luckily, he didn't hit it because, good God, I don't know what would have happened if he hit it. He was like, oh, man, we got to pull this fucker to the truck and we got to, like, oh, no.
Not drunk. Not drunk.
I was too far gone. I was like, I am absolutely no help to you, sir.
All right, so I don't know.
Anyway,
the other thing that I was going to say.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, the other thing I was going to say about this whole interaction was how did they, and I couldn't find this, and it may be benign, but how did they come about finding said Cameron and Jacob? Was it like, hey, you might want to talk to these people? They were in the area, and then authorities went and talked to them. I mean, it may be as benign as that, but may not be. Anyway. More than a year would pass before another update on Mark's case when on October 16th, almost 3 years after he went missing, a Carbon County Sheriff's deputy responded to a call stating someone had found personal property at the Sandstone Cabin off of Highway 70. This location was roughly 5.5 miles from the point where Mark's truck was found. When the deputy arrived, they learned that a man named Mr. Christensen and his nephew had been chasing a herd of elk when his nephew noticed a rusty rifle resting partially under a tree. Now, reports vary, but the two men apparently dug the rifle out of the ground. So it's resting on a tree, but the wind and the snow and the litter, the nature litter has basically covered up part of the rifle. They also would find a backpack with what appeared to be clothing and a single boot. Mr. Christensen flipped the backpack over and found a hunting license with the name of Mark Strittmater on it. He brought the gun and hunting license back with him and reported it to the nearest game warden. Now, Mr. Christensen gave detailed information about the rifle, including that it had one bullet in the in the magazine. He also described the bolt as being up and shut, but he did say that he had to tap the gun on a log to get it to open, which means there was some rust closing said bolt. He also said that he could see the rifle had been fired. He could not remember what position the safety was in when he found the gun, but he did believe that it may have been in the firing position. Now, pictures of the rifle seem to show a shell still lodged in this chamber. The deputy and the game warden then proceeded to the coordinates given by Mr. Christensen where they came upon the clothing and items. After searching the area, they also found a jawbone and some arm bones still inside a vest. They searched the surrounding area to roughly 15 to 20 yards, I think, from where they found the remains, but did not find any additional remains. Now, pictures of the area seem to show several pieces of clothing, bits of fabric, a hat, and some other smaller items. A rangefinder and what appeared to be a knife was also found. Now, the coroner would later arrive to collect the clothing and the remains, and due to the remains being in such an advanced state of decomp, the cause of death was not apparent, and nothing at the scene seemed to indicate foul play. The coroner positively ID'd the remains as Mark Strittmater, more than likely from dental records. Ultimately, the coroner was not able to determine the cause of death. The case was considered closed due to no evidence pointing toward any criminal activity. So what happened to Mark Strittmater? Was he abducted by a UFO and then returned at some point later on, i.e. the missing 411 UFO connection theory, or did he simply get lost in a snowstorm and subsequently die from exposure? So if you do watch that missing 411 movie, the UFO connection, you may recall Mark's girlfriend Kimberly was interviewed. This is where they didn't double check the spelling of her name, which a lot of shade has been thrown their way. I don't think it was a malicious fuck up, but it was a fuck up. Now, in the movie, Kimberly recalled a story where Mark believed he had seen a UFO on a previous hunting trip. Again, this is not proof positive that UFOs took Mark, but it is an anecdotal instance of him having an unexplained sighting.
Well, I mean, it explains a lot. There's so many mysteries about it. If you think a UFO took him, that fills in a lot of the blanks. You know what I'm saying?
No, it does. And here's the thing. I think 2 weeks before the movie was released is when they find his remains. It may have been as much as 3 months. And a lot of shit has been said about that. But what people don't understand, that movie had already gone into post-production. That's way out of Pilatus's hands by then. That's on the distribution. They could have easily put a thing in the movie that said, hey, this guy's been found. Anyway, so several years before Mark disappeared, a man named Carl Higdon reported that aliens had abducted him while he was hunting in Medicine Bow. That one is a extremely odd story if you want to look that one up. Now, the argument is that Medicine Bow is a known abduction spot, and Mark was abducted based solely on him being in the same proximity as Carl Higdon's abduction. To further strengthen the UFO argument, other anonymous individuals have come forward stating that they have been in Medicine Bow and either experienced unexplained sightings or experienced missing time. Some have claimed that they have witnessed elk and other wildlife being taken in what appeared to be a bluish light from an unidentified flying object. So the biggest part for me is the medications. I don't know if they played a role in this or not. They do throw a monkey wrench into the UFO angle, because if they had not found those medicines, then I would be all into something spooky, paranormal, UFO type. But I just
that doesn't discount it though.
No. I'm not saying that it's any less likely. I'm just saying it kind of sways me not to the UFO side.
Yeah, I mean, the medication does throw a monkey wrench in it, but it could possibly have happened.
Oh, yeah. No. I agree with you because I watched the movie and I'm like, hell yeah. So now this case is extremely similar to the Aaron Hedges case we covered previously.
Which is, in my opinion, our best episode.
Yeah, I agree. Now,
I couldn't tell you what number it is, but please, if you want to look up, I'm on Google or on Apple Podcasts or whatever, look up Mysterious Brews, Aaron Hedges. I think it's in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that's our best episode. Because that one is fucking crazy.
You were close. 75.
75?
Yep. Episode 75.
So look up Mysterious Brews, episode 75. Aaron Hedges. In my humble opinion, I think that's our best episode. Because it is so fucking strange.
Now, what has come out since we covered that is some things. There's a couple of people that have done a deep dive into it that will make you scratch your head and think, maybe there is another angle to it. And it has come to light since Aaron disappeared that he had a substance addiction. And they're saying that could have played a role in his death or disappearance and untimely death. I don't think it accounts for everything, especially the distance that he covered. But the thing that I want to tell is this, and we are always not victim blaming at all, and under no circumstances am I suggesting that Mark's potential opiate addiction was the cause of his death. That's not what I'm saying. Hear me again. No shade being thrown. I do not think him battling opiate addiction had anything to do with his death. Okay, I'm just stating that it throws a monkey wrench into the disappearance. Aaron's case, it was finally released several years later that he was battling alcohol addiction, and the side that's against David Paulides states that if you are coming off of severe alcohol withdrawals, that can come on really fast and really strong and cause a lot of havoc in where you're at and what you are acting like. Mark's disappearance, I believe, it was more, if we're going down the prescription drug route, is a more gradual medical withdrawal when he disappeared. It is impossible to know for certain because we have no toxicology report for Mark. But if we consider the opiate withdrawal is one of the worst things imaginable, and if it were to happen to someone while they were lost in the wilderness or just slightly confused on where they actually were, they would feel extremely helpless and would be extremely sick. Add on top of that, a freak snowstorm that comes in and dumps 4 to 6 inches. Not good conditions. Now, it's worth explaining what Mark was prescribed, or what, better yet, what they found in the vehicle. So the Suboxone, which is often used to treat opioid addiction, it acts both as an antagonist and an agonist in the brain's opioid receptors. This combination of buprenorphine and naloxone keeps withdrawal symptoms at bay for someone trying to come off other forms of opiates similar to oxycodone. Now, it also prevents the individual from being able to get high in theory. Someone taking Suboxone should not be able to use other opiates to get high, but results may vary from person to person. One part of the Suboxone, or Suboxone, however the hell you want to say it, is that it actually has a very long half-life. Yes, you heard me say it. Strap in, because we're headed back to middle school math and science, boys. We're talking about a half-life, and that means it takes quite some time to completely be eliminated by the body. So if Mark was lost in the wilderness, he likely wouldn't feel the full effects of withdrawal because being on the Suboxone for some time. after 24 hours without taking it again, he would probably feel close to 90% normal. Just maybe like, man, something's off. I don't feel normal, but I'm not like something real bad. After 48 hours, you're looking at about a 70 to 80% feeling of normalcy. And then that's going to, continuously get worse and worse the longer he is in the wilderness without the medicine. This withdrawal would be a slow onset. More than likely, an opiate withdrawal could have been a causal factor in his death. That is, unless he survived past 3 or 4 days. After 4 days, dressed the way it was reported that he was dressed, more than likely he perished from exposure. Now, Mark was prescribed the diazepam, commonly known as Valium, and the hydroxine. And though the hydroxine is basically an antihistamine, but it's also commonly used to treat the symptoms of opiate withdrawals as well. The side effects are basically like any other antihistamine. Now, taking it with alcohol, of course, can enhance the effects of both the diazepam and the hydroxine. We have talked about diazepam and Valium in the past, and if you have ever taken it or know someone who has taken it,
you know it's wonderful.
You know that's some good shit. But you also feel a little tipsy, a little numb. Now, this would explain why he appeared to the two men that were walking that he had been drinking when he offered them a ride. Mark also had quite a bit of the alprazolam or the Xanax prescribed to him. Now, that is very similar side effects as the Valium. If you double those up, you're looking at some not feeling any pain kind of situation. Now, it was reported that his regular medications were just the Valium and the Suboxone. And I guess if he was having a bad day withdrawal-wise, the hydroxyzine and the Xanax would have been there for that. So there were some things that were not in Mark's favor that day. He disappeared. First, he arrived home in Saratoga at 1 a.m. after driving from Gillette, where he was staying for work. We didn't really cover it at the beginning, but that distance is roughly 300 miles apart, and it takes approximately 4.5 hours to drive. So Mark got home at 1 a.m., and then he would leave at like 5:30 a.m. that same morning, and that's when his girlfriend Kimberly saw him. So that's 4.5 hours after he got home, he's turning around and leaving. Now, if he got home at 1 a.m. and went straight to bed, he's got 4.5 hours of sleep, which we know there's nobody on the face of this planet that does that shit. So when you look at it from a hunter's perspective, he would have probably gotten home, started getting his gear together, or at least getting his gear in the truck, packed a little bit of food, a little bit of water, some other small items that he's going to need. So you're looking at another 30 to 40 minutes before he's in the bed. This also begs the question on whether or not he decided to go to bed at all. He may have just been jacked up on caffeine and was like, hell with it, I'm going to pack my shit and I'm just going to drive on into Medicine Bow and maybe sleep in the truck before, get a couple of hours there, get up and go hunting. We really don't know. We know that once he got to his hunting area, the only witness to actually see him thought he was intoxicated. Taking into account the side effects of the medicines that were found in his truck, it's very likely he would have appeared intoxicated if he had taken his medicine that day. The other kick in the pants came in the form of the weather, that bad snowstorm that hit quickly and dumped 4 to 6 inches of snow on the ground. From what was found in Mark's truck, he was not prepared for the weather once it got there. He did not have any heavy winter clothing, and he only had minimal food or water if he had taken any with him when he embarked from the truck. Remember, there were some food and water found in the cooler, but that was found in the truck. While Mark was an experienced hunter and an outdoor survivalist, the cards seemed to be stacked against him that day. With all of that said, and if you've watched the Missing 411 UFO Connection movie, it begs the question, where do you fall on the old spectrum of what happened to Mark Strittmater? Was this a case of abduction or misfortune? And I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other, but something to think about is that if Mark was abducted, then obviously he was returned at some point. The trail of gear he left behind would seem to indicate someone who traveled on foot and was disoriented. Was this trail of gear the result of him being placed, quote, back in an area that was not where he disappeared from? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the case of the disappearance and untimely death of Mark Strittmater. I highly recommend that you look into at least that clip of the Missing 411 UFO Connection movie. It does a very good job of kind of going over all the shenanigans that has gone on in the Medicine Bow, and there's quite a lot. There is another... I saw this while I was doing my research. There was another one. I think it was the disappearance and death of... Oh, I say that and I can't come up with it. Todd Seas. I think that's also near Medicine Bow. Now that I said it, it's probably like on the other side of the fucking country. But anyway.
The more the 411 extends into these disappearances, I mean, when he first started, he definitely was trying to insinuate it was Bigfoot. But he's gotten so much more into... what I'm trying to say is the paranormal, you know. It's like UFOs. He's trying to make a connection between Bigfoot and UFOs. Boil that down to what I'm trying to say.
Well, and it also, he doesn't say it, but there's also, I feel like there's a whole lot of like portal / dimensional time slip stuff going on. And originally we were going to tie in the shadow people. I think we're going to hold off on that one and use that as a whole new standalone episode. But that's
definitely, because I know for a fact those are 100% visual hallucinations, or they exist, because I've seen them. I've seen them. I've experienced it 100%. I've seen the Hat Man.
And we discussed the Hat Man in some episode. I cannot find it, but we talked about it for just a short little second in some episode. It was
probably when I was experiencing it.
Probably so.
It was probably, I would say, at least 3 years ago. But just to give you an overview, I experienced a bad breakup and I stayed awake. I have very bad insomnia. Everybody knows that. The most I've ever stayed up was 6.5 days. Somewhere along those lines, I saw the Hat Man. He was standing in my kitchen. He was there. You cannot convince me he was not there.
You can keep him, bud. I don't want no part of that.
I don't want no part of that either. But after the 6.5 days of staying awake, what's funny is like, I lived with my sister at the time, and she loves to go to the Amish market, which is like a 2-hour drive away. And she's like, hey, do you want to go? And I was like, yeah. And I put my shoes on, and my body was like, hey, by the way, we're going to go to sleep in the next 30 seconds. So whether or not you're standing or you're sitting or you're laying, it doesn't matter. We're going to sleep. 6.5 days. My body spoke to my brain. I can't explain how. I really can't explain it, because it's true. Something told my brain, my body told my brain, hey, if you're not laying down in the next 30 seconds, fuck you.
It's a control alt delete's happening, buddy.
And I slept like 22 hours. And when I woke up, I did not know where I was. I did not know what day it was. I didn't know what time it was. I didn't even fucking know what year it was. Insomnia is a fucking asshole. But because of my insomnia, I know the shadow people are real. You can't convince me they're not. And we'll get into that.
Yes, we will. All right, I've got two.
Stay tuned. Next bat time. Next bat channel.
So I have two recommendations. First of all, I recommend you at least watching the Missing 411 UFO Connection, just based on what we went over with Strittmater and that whole Medicine Bow area. I think it's about 30 minutes, maybe less than that, in the whole movie. But my legit recommendation is The Ancient Apocalypse Season 2 on Netflix with old Graham Hancock. He makes a very, very good argument that there was an advanced civilization a long, long time ago that everybody else tried to copy. So that's my recommendation. If you have not watched The Ancient Apocalypse Season 1, I highly recommend both of them. Both of them, I say.
You can't make two recommendations. You can't do it.
Well, I just did, dick face.
I'm going to recommend the new Netflix documentary, The Manhattan Alien Abduction.
Well, that was next in my queue. How is it?
That's pretty good.
Is it?
There were a lot of witnesses. A lot of witnesses.
So it's either mass hallucination or something really went down.
I believe that something really went down.
I would tend to agree with that. I don't really believe in that mass hallucination shit. But anyway,
not everyone can be crazy.
Not at the same time.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Not everyone can be crazy.
We all acted every once in a while, but not collectively. All right. Well, you got anything else there, Slappy?
Oh, Jesus Christ. You know I don't.
Just for you, Miss Winford. Deuces.